We're up to Daf Nun Zayin Amud Beis on Nun Zayin Amud Aleph on the bottom. Nun Zayin Amud Aleph on the bottom. Itmar Rav Omar. Let's just give a little introduction, so we'll get to Nun Zayin Amud Beis, and that is Rav Huna's Shita in Kedushin Daf Hey that Chuppah Kona. He based it on a Kal V'chomer, and Rav and Shmuel in our sugya accept Rav Huna that Chuppah is Kona b'chol mokom. And they have a machlokas about chuppah lepsulos in the case of Kohen Gadol, who takes an almana, a bas Kohen, into the chuppah. What's her din? Is her din like a regular chuppah of an isha ksher and he's kona her? Or is chuppah psula invalid? It's not a kinyan. And even though la halacha we don't paskin like Rav Huna, but this sugya that we're learning now is based on Rav Huna, that chuppah is kona without kedushin. Itmar Rav Omar. We start here on Zayin Amud Beis. Yesh chuppah lepsulos. A Kohen Gadol who brings an almana bas Kohen into the chuppah, and he has not yet had beer with her, so that she doesn't become psula through beer. It was not makadisha before this chuppah, but we're assuming like Rav Huna that there is a kinyan ishus with chuppah without kesef and shtar. And according to Rav, even though there was no kiddushin in this case, the chuppah itself will pasel her, the almana, from eating truma bebeis aviyah, because chuppah is kona the psula. And if Kiddushay Kesef, Kiddushay Shtar alone would be niknes l'bayla v'eina nifsels, but Kinyan Chuppah is more chamor than the Kinyan of Kesef and Shtar, because it's considered like Tchilas Knisas Be'ila. And therefore, if there would have been a Be'ila here in this case, and we'll see later on that she's already older than 3 years and 1 day, she would become a Chalola, and therefore she's Asur L'Kahuna, is even though it was nichtasol lechuppah v'lo nivala, nevertheless it's considered like tchilas bia, and she becomes psula from achilas truma ad kan shitas ra. Shmuel Amar ein chuppah lepsulos, and that would go as far as even to say if there was a kiddushin from the beginning, and then he was machnas halachuppah, she would still not become psula for achilas truma, even though chuppah is kona bi'alma. But the reason why chuppah is kona is because it's like a maisa of kirva lebia. But in a case where there's no kirva lebia, because it's not a chuppah that's re'uya lebia, then it's not makarva lebia, and therefore the chuppah itself is invalid, and therefore she's not niknes lebayla, and therefore she's not nifselis me'achilas truma. Amar Shmuel umodali abba, but Rav would certainly concede to me, even though he holds that yesh chuppah lepsulos, and that apostles of achilas truma, nevertheless, b'tinokes pchutza mibat shalosh shanim yom echad, if she is less than 3 years and 1 day old, which means that we don't consider her bila as be'ila, and he took her into the chuppah, hoil the, and this is an almana l'kohen gadol, hoil the ein ba, ein la bia, ein la chuppah. If the whole definition, the essence of chuppah as a kinyan is because of kirv lebia, in this case of a pchusim bas shalosh, there's no kirv lebia. Her bia is not a bia, which means that even if he would have a relationship with her, she would not become psula, she would not be disqualified from eating truma. And therefore, chuppah is not posasa. It doesn't have that impact of disqualifying her, because the whole reason why chuppah is kona is because kiriv lebia. But if the bia is itself would be a poselis, kolshkein chuppah ain't a poselis, and the bia itself ain't a poselis because it's not called a bia. Omar Rav Afanan Nami Tmina. I also have in a brisa which is in Masechey Nida Mem Daled Amud Beis, in the case of Tana Pchutzim Bat Shalosh, which is not explicit in the brisa, but by implication we'll see, Ein Habia Poselespa. And if Eina Bia Postelis, how much more so Eina Chuppah Postelis? And we learned in the Mishnah, in Masechey Nida, I said it was a brisa, maybe it's a Mishnah, Ketana Bashol Shana V'Yom Echad, so she's already reached that age where she's Re'uya L'Bia. And in such a case, the Mishnah paskins that if her father is moser her for marriage, and he gives her for Kiddushay Bia, and therefore she's miskadeshes b'bia, and therefore the repercussions are the im. If her husband dies without zera, she falls for yibum. Ba'ala yavam kna. The yavam is kona his yevama who's a kana, and if he wants to divorce her, she doesn't need chalitza, she needs a get. And not only that, but chayav aleh mishameshes each. If the father was makabel kedushin on behalf of her, the kedushin achal, and if some other man would have a relation with her, he's chayav mishameshes each. Now, if let's say this katana was a nida, and someone had a relationship with her, that's called tumas boel nida. Is metama as boela? She's metama the boel with the tumas baal anida, which is an avatum. It's metama even under the kelim. Letame mishkav tachton ke elyon. The mishkav upon which she sleeps, or the moshav upon which she sits, become tmeim ke elyon, like the din of a beged, which was carried over a zav. It's not metama under the kelim that come in contact with it, but ochlin umashkin. So mishkav boel nida is metame ochlin umashkin. And even though she's a tana, her bia is considered a bia. It's metame is bola, and it's therefore to be metame ochlin umashkin. And therefore, v'mkidsha via v'nises lekohen, she has a din of an asua because she's 3 years old, and therefore chelas b'truma. If let's say a chol or nosen or mamza would have a relationship with a katana, or let's say a kohen gadol would have a relationship with her and she's an almana, imagine she's an almana at 3 years old. Anyway, psala, she becomes psula milechel truva beis avia if she's a bas kohen. So the Gemara is now medayik. This is Rav. Bas shalosh shana v'yom echad hu de mifsala b'bia. When it says here in the Mishnah that psala, in a case of Baal Leah Echad Min Psulim, the Mishnah says that's only because she's a Bas Shalosh Shana V'Yom Echad. However, had she been less than Bas Shalosh Shana V'Yom Echad, Chutza Mi Bas Shalosh Shana V'Yom Echad, the low mifsala b'bia is low mifsala nami b'chuppah. Her bia is not considered a bia to pasal her from one of the psulim, as a result of bia with one of the psulim. She's less than 3 years old. It's therefore lo mifsala nami l'chuppah. The chuppah, which is a kiruv lebia, as we said before, is also not kal. It's not valid. And the Gemara concludes shmamina that this is a full-fledged support as to what we said before, that katana putsim b'ashol shom v'yomechen einen ifselis b'bia and kol shkein b'chuppah. Now, Rami Bar Chama is going to disagree with Rav, who said that according to everybody, yesh chuppah l'psulos. Rami Bar Chama is also going to disagree with Shmuel, who says that according to everyone, ein chuppah l'psulos. Omar Rami Bar Chama, yesh chuppah l'psulos, but banu l'machlokas Rabbi Meir, Rabbi Eliezer, Rabbi Shimon. So what we think is a machlokas between Rav and Shmuel. Rav holds yesh chuppah l'psulos, and Shmuel says ein chuppah l'psulos, is in fact essentially a machlokas tanoim between Rabbi Meir on the one hand and Rabbi Eliezer, Rabbi Shimon on the other hand.